Hi, Professor Perry. This is my presentation on sex trafficking in Thailand and the United States. Sex trafficking is a major problem around the world. The prevalence for sex trafficking is infinite because of the demand for sexual services. The United Nations define sex trafficking as a recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, receipt of persons by the means of threat, use of force, and other forms of coercion, abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power, or the position of vulnerability. In 2013, the International Labour Organization estimated that 4.5 million victims were trafficked. The sex trafficking has an annual profit of $32 billion a year. Also, it is estimated that 1 million children are victims of sex trafficking, and nearly 70% of those victims are females. Also, sex trafficking takes place in a range of venues, for example, brothels, massage parlors, hotels, escort services, and on the street. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, also known as UDHR, states under Article 4 that no one shall be held in slavery or servitude and that the slave trade is prohibited. Additionally, in Article 7, it is stated that no person should experience torture, inhumane or cruel or degrading treatment. Sex trafficking victims suffer from physical and mental degradation because they are intimidated, isolated, physically and sexually assaulted by their pimps, and of course they agree on terms to have sexual relationships with Johns, but again they're being forced to engage in that activity. There are also a risk of contracting sexually transmitted diseases such as HIV. Also, the UDHR states that every human being must have the following in order to be considered, a human, I guess. For example, the right to life, liberty, and personal security, the freedom from slavery, the freedom from torture. However, victims of sex trafficking have their basic human rights violated. Sex trafficking in the United States, the Department of Justice estimated that nearly 83% of trafficked victims are U.S. citizens, as opposed to, 28% of those who are trafficked are citizens from undeveloped countries. Also, states with international borders such as California and Texas are magnets for the sex industry. In 2007, the National Human Trafficking Resource Hotline received more than 14,588 reports of sex trafficking in the United States. Also, the Department of Justice heard about 360 cases against perpetrators of sex trafficking, but only 238 of those were convicted. So this once again proves that even though the United States fall in Tier 1, fighting against sex trafficking or any other form of human trafficking, the problem still exists because not all perpetrators are being convicted. Also, another problem is that traffic victims are sometimes arrested and prosecuted, and they're not considered victims. The sex trafficking in Thailand is another major problem. Thailand is one of the worst countries, destinations for sex tourism, and that's because on the international level, it's one of the top destinations, as I said before. Research has shown that the exact number of victims is not known, but non-profit organizations in Thailand estimate that there's tens of thousands of victims. One major issue associated with the sex trafficking in Thailand is the corruption, law enforcement corruption. There have been lots of cases where law enforcement officials cover up for the sex trafficking perpetrators. They have. I saw a case on an article that police officers serve as whistleblowers. They inform the traffickers about possible raids that they're gonna get in the massage parlors. So they're I guess they inform them before the other police officers arrive to the place, and once they get there, nobody's there. Also, according to the U.S. State Department of Justice, Thailand has not met the minimum requirements to combat trafficking industry, and that is because of the corruption and also the fact that people from minorities from Laos and Cambodia and Burma arrive to Thailand in seek of jobs, and they fall in the sex industry. However, they're not how do I say this? The campaigns to promote and raise awareness about sex trafficking only targets Thailand citizens. It doesn't target minority groups, for example, from Laos and Burma. So that's another problem, that they're not addressing the sex trafficking problem in Thailand as a whole. They're just targeting, trying to raise awareness just within the Thailand community or citizens, now with other minorities. So one of the anti-trafficking laws in the United States, the Congress enacted the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, also known as TVPA, in 2010 with the intention to criminalize those perpetrators and also to provide services and benefits to victims, for example, the T visa and the U visa. Also, they get services such as monetary assistance, job opportunities, and training. Currently, the U.S. falls into Tier 1 and is fully compliant with the minimum requirements to eradicate human trafficking, especially sex trafficking, which is a major issue. In 2014, President Obama signed into law the Preventing Sex Trafficking and Extraditing Families Act, which helps, for example, juveniles who are often trafficked, and they get a chance to be reunited with their families. And if, in case they don't have families, they get a chance to the government finds families for them according to their, personal, according to their, if they're young, and, if they look for families that are perfect fit for that children to be placed in. And, anti-trafficking laws in Thailand, they really don't have a lot of trafficking laws, anti-trafficking laws. But one of them, for example, in 1996, the Thai government passed the Prostitution Prevention and Suppression Act with the purpose to criminalize those responsible for human trafficking. Also, the Ministry of Social Development and Human Security provides services to trafficked victims. For example, they get a shelter to stay. They receive some type of visa. I don't know what it's called. And they receive training, for job opportunities. Additionally, the government also created campaigns to raise awareness by conducting radio and TV talk shows, as well as billboards on freeways and streets. The critique for the United States, I think they must get tough on crime, on persecution. For example, they must, in order to eradicate this problem in the United States, they must, the government must prosecute traffickers efficiently. They must, be tough and convict all the cases that are presented in court. Also, it is essential that all official law enforcement officials take the victim-centered approach, which means that they must consider a trafficked victim, like a victim, not a perpetrator. Um, because, there have been cases where they've been arrested and convicted, and, they get denied services, that are available for traffic victims, but they often see them as, I guess, in violation of the law because they're engaged in prostitution, and that's not what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be focusing and finding out whether that person is a true victim or not, and not just pretending they're not because they're in prostitution. For Thailand, they should prosecute law enforcement agents that are whistleblowers, like I said before, for perpetrators of human trafficking. They must be harsh, punished, because otherwise the problem is going to continue. And additionally, the government must raise awareness among minority groups such as people from Laos and Burma, because, like I said before, they're just focusing on raising awareness on people from its country, not for minority groups. This concludes my presentation, and I hope I did everything well. Thank you.